watching Talking Points, a focus on the political scene in Lubbock and across the South Plains.
And welcome back. Here's a look at some of the political headlines of the past week. Boy, how about this? Slayton's mayor and a city councilman passed away within a week of each other. Councilman Buster Tucker died on the 23rd at age 75. He was a tech graduate, Vietnam vet, served in law enforcement for 42 years, and on the city council there for more than 20. And Slayton Mayor Dubbin England died Tuesday. Mr. England, also a Red Raider, joined the Slayton Volunteer Fire Department in 1976 and was the department's chief for 5 years, starting in '95. He'd been Slayton's mayor since 2009. Our love to their families today. The city with a big thank you this week to the good folks at the 806 Land Group, who's donated the site for the North Substation. It'll be built on 3 acres west of the intersection of Erskine and Frankfort at what will be an extension of Genoa Avenue. Construction set to begin sometime this fall. Legislative session ended Monday without a lot of fanfare, but lawmakers couldn't stop raving about the more positive tone of this session. Maybe we should threaten their political jobs a little more often. But be that as it may, KMAC's Steffi Lee talked to some happy politicians.
So I've always signed over here on top of the House.
State Representative Drew Springer has all the legislators in the Texas House sign his poster after the end of every session. They're red and blue and together.
But Texas, we intermix. We sit with each other, we eat with each other.
And most lawmakers in this chamber felt like that was the tone from the start.
There was more a feeling of equity, of evenness.
I'm feeling great. It's been a great session, very productive.
They point to accomplishments on top priorities: a balanced budget, property tax reform, and school finance.
I think that has to be our biggest victory this session, and I think that whether you're Republican, Democrat, I think everybody was incredibly happy with how that turned out.
Outside of those topics, lawmakers also addressed other critical issues, like getting a statewide flood plan.
If and when, we have additional natural disasters and flood problems, the planning that can start now will really make a difference to prevent some of the catastrophic damage that we have suffered with hurricanes and the likes.
And the problem of child sex trafficking.
Minors will no longer be arrested for the crime of prostitution. We'll be sending these children to local care coordinators where they're eligible for emergency housing, medical treatment.
But the work never stops.
There's always business left undone, and certainly I don't think there's anybody who would say every issue's been tackled.
In Austin, Steffi Lee, KMAC News.
And Steffi, maybe the Washington crowd taking a few cues from Texas on getting things done together. Texas Senator Ted Cruz on Twitter this week even proposed working with far-left Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on a bill to ban lawmakers from ever becoming lobbyists. Before that sign of the apocalypse, Senator Cruz was in Lubbock for a speech. He took a few questions afterward, and we thought we'd show you that for 5 good minutes.
Well, it's great to be back in Lubbock. It's great to be back in West Texas. I love the people of West Texas. I love the values, that there is a frontier mentality in West Texas, a strength, an independence. Look, people in West Texas, we want low taxes. We want low regulations. We want lots and lots of jobs. We want the border secure. And we want to protect the Constitution and our Bill of Rights. Those are the values of West Texas, and those are the values I'm fighting for every day in the Senate.
All right. So, and then when we talk about, I think someone asked you about trade in there, and how, cotton's huge in West Texas. And just talk about, the trade war. What do you tell these farmers here in West Texas when these negotiations with China are going on right now?
Well, I've been proud to champion and to fight for farmers and ranchers in West Texas and all across our state. Agriculture is huge in the state of Texas. It is a fundamental backbone of our state. And when it comes to farmers and ranchers, we've seen a lot of positive things. We've seen in the tax cut, the death tax, the exemption from the death tax was doubled. That means 2/3 of the farms and ranches that would have been subject to the death tax are now totally exempt. We've seen the regulations from the federal government that were hammering farms and ranches, things like the Waters of the United States rule, we've repealed. That's benefited farms and ranches. We've seen energy, oil and gas. It is incredible. The United States is now the #1 producer in the world for oil and the #1 producer in the world for natural gas. That is incredible as well. I also have been proud in particular to fight for cotton farmers, and in the last farm bill we were able to include the seed cotton provision to make sure cotton farmers are treated like everybody else. It wasn't right, it wasn't fair that farmers were excluded and treated differently, cotton farmers, than other farmers. And so we now have a fair and consistent policy across the board. And I think the people of West Texas, they want to see us continue going down the road of more jobs and more opportunity. When it comes to trade, we need to be opening up foreign barriers. I am concerned about the prospect of a trade war. I don't want to see that happen. But I'm grateful that the president is pressing our trading partners, in particular pressing China, to open up their market even more. 75% of cotton production in Texas goes to exports. So opening up foreign markets is hugely important for the livelihoods of cotton farmers here in West Texas, and I'm going to continue fighting for those farmers, fighting for ranchers, and fighting for more trade for us to get into foreign markets.
And I'm sure, and there are plenty of other questions about other issues, but you talk about how the gridlock in Washington with Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats running the House. Just talk about that for a little bit and how, you know, what you guys plan to do when that kind of gridlock's going on.
You know, this is an unfortunate time nationally. We're really divided as a country. There's an anger, there's a rage we're seeing on the far left, and unfortunately it's reflected in the Nancy Pelosi House, where the extreme left base of the Democratic Party, they're angry, they hate President Trump. And it colors everything. And so what we're seeing in the House is just a non-stop effort to attack the president, to attack the administration. Non-stop investigations, non-stop subpoenas. I think ultimately the House will go down the road of moving towards impeachment because their angry left-wing base is so consumed with hatred of the president. You know, I don't think that's where the people of Texas are. The people of Texas are grateful for the economic boom we're seeing right now. When we had Republican control of both houses of Congress and a Republican president, what we accomplished in 2017 and 2018 was tremendous. I spent thousands of hours working to bring Republicans together, to get 50 Republicans in the Senate to pass an historic tax cut, to repeal job-killing regulations. And we're seeing the benefits of that. We've got the lowest unemployment in 50 years. We have the lowest Hispanic unemployment that has ever been recorded. We've got the lowest African American unemployment that's ever been recorded. I want to keep this economic boom going, and I think the Pelosi House just attacking the president all day and all night is not in the interest of the people of Texas. It's not in the interest of working men and women across the country.
The Texas economy is prosperous right now. Any concern about the future, though, especially the oil industry?
Well, sure. Look, you always have to be concerned about the future, and economies are cyclical. That being said, there is a pattern. There's a consistent pattern we've seen nationally, which is when the federal government cuts taxes, when it simplifies the tax code, when it repeals job-killing regulations, the economy booms. And the reason is small businesses prosper. The key to the economy, the key to jobs is small businesses. 2/3 of all new jobs come from small businesses. So if you want an economy that's doing well, you want an environment where small businesses are being formed, where they're growing, where they're expanding, where they're prospering. This is something Texas understands. Look, Texas, the ethos here, we understand low taxes, low regulations, let small businesses prosper. There's a reason 1,000 people a day move to the state of Texas. You know, one of my favorite stats is the cost of a one-way U-Haul from California to Texas is more than 300% the cost of a U-Haul going the other way. Because all the population is coming here, and it ain't complicated why. Texas is where the jobs are. But we've got to protect that. We've got to protect that, and that really is what I'm fighting to do every day in the Senate.
Straight ahead, they run dangerous natural gas lines into your home. They run the nitrogen and oxygen lines that put you to sleep in the hospital. So why did the Texas legislature think they didn't need a governing board?